disciple of Srila Prabhupada from the early 70s and service in New York City from that time. And of course, he's also had the difficult services of one time of managing as the chief governing body commissioner for New York City. When Prabhupada first arrived, he said it was the most important city in the world at that time. You could make that Krishna conscious, and the whole world would become Krishna conscious. So he had that responsibility, along with also Chicago, another big city. So for many years he's rendered that service, and he is, of course, one of our sannyasi members and initiating spiritual master within ISKCON. And we're fortunate to have him here again. He's been coming every year, so let's give him a nice welcome. Romapada Swami.
I'm going to need this. I'm going to need this.
Okay.
But I'm going to need batteries. Okay. It's a professional recording. That's our topic this evening. This has been one festival after another festival after another festival after another festival, and there's another one coming up. The festival of Srila Prabhupada's arrival in America. Now, the persons who are here, there's only one person that's here for the second time, and everyone else has been around for some time. So we don't need an introduction to who is Srila Prabhupada, correct? Okay. He's our founder Acharya, and the Vyasa-san back here raised their special seat, the seat of Vyasadeva, for our whole society for generations and generations and generations and more generations to come. On several occasions, Prabhupada said in the future, there may be many acharyas, but there's one founder acharya. And founder acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, means this organization that he established, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, following the footsteps of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta, to establish a worldwide association of devotees. His teachings supersede or are the guiding light for all of our centers worldwide and all of our future generations under the banner of ISKCON. There's a waiting for the microphone. It's good? You got a good battery in it?
Yeah, actually, it'll play through here. It's loud enough if you like.
No, I want it to be right here, if you don't mind. Okay, great. So you're all experienced devotees, so I can speak about Bhaktisiddhanta, and no one is going to go like, who's that? So Bhaktisiddhanta, when he was very young, he established Vaishnava Vishva Raja Sabha. Those of you from India, you know what all of that means. Vishva is this created realm, the universe. Vishva. And Sabha means like an organization, a group of people. Vaishnava Vishva Raja Sabha was the Sanskrit terms for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or the global, the Universal Society for Krishna Consciousness. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote that there is always such association, he compared it to a river. That sometimes rivers are on the surface of the earth, and sometimes rivers flow below the surface of the earth, but the river is there. So similarly, there is always the association of Vaishnavas, sometimes visible, sometimes not visible. And the function of an acharya, like our founder acharya, is to make that which is not visible, visible. To manifest from the living entities who have forgotten Krishna, those living entities who can remember Krishna through association and the process of bhakti, primarily the hearing and chanting process of bhakti shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu. So bhakti awakens bhakti through bhakti association, through Srila Prabhupada's association. This always existing river of Vaishnava association came to the surface and manifested as ISKCON. And we're honoring on 21st September, this coming week. Today is the 14th, so 1 week from today, the arrival of Srila Prabhupada at the Boston Harbor. Now earlier, some days earlier in the month of August, was the anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's departure from Calcutta. And from Calcutta around the south of India and so forth, across the Atlantic Ocean to come to the Boston Harbor. And in Boston, they're having a big celebration on next Sunday in honor of Srila Prabhupada's arrival at the Boston Harbor. So we're celebrating a week earlier, or at least honoring that event a week earlier. And very famous within ISKCON is the song that Srila Prabhupada wrote, which is what we're going to be viewing next, this Markine Bhagavat Dharma. Now here's a few things before we begin this. Srila Prabhupada meditated upon this long after he wrote it. I heard on more than one occasion lectures in which Prabhupada was quoting from the song. In a lecture to an audience in the West, where he would recite the Bengali and then explain the meaning, it was more than just one-time song that he wrote, or poem that he wrote that was nice. It was an expression of his mission. So as we go through it, we'll sing it responsively, and then read the translation and meditate on what he's saying. The translation is going to show on the screen, and somebody made an arrangement to send to your handheld device the words of the song. So those of you that have a handheld device, you can look it up. You know how to look it up?
Maybe in Gmail, they send it in the email.
Tell them how you send it. How did you send it? How can they pull out their...
It was posted on the ISKCON Panihati WhatsApp group, the link.
On both of them?
On both the groups.
So if you have... Does anybody here just have a phone? You have 2 or 3 phones. You can pull out your phone and look up the words. And there was supposed to be some printed copies for those of you that don't have a handheld device. Anybody need the words printed out? And
Google it also.
okay. I'm going to read the translation of these verses slowly, kind of like a dramatic reading, because it's profound and dramatic at the same time. I'm going to need it. I think I'm going to do one more of those. Prayer to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. As you may know, when Srila Prabhupada was crossing the Atlantic Ocean, the captain of the ship told Prabhupada it's the smoothest crossing he's ever experienced. Krishna had intervened. But Prabhupada was pretty old. His body was pretty old. 70 years old. And in the course of crossing the ocean, he had 2 heart attacks. And he wrote in his diary, if there is another, I don't know if I'll live, but Krishna came and blessed him that you'll have a safe journey. And so he felt he was under Krishna's protection. And surely he was. So at his lotus feet, Krishna's lotus feet. September 10, 1965, Prabhupada wrote, I emphatically say to you, O brothers, You'll obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was very dear to Lord Gauranga, the son of Mother Sachi, is unparalleled in his service with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotional service to Krishna at different places throughout the world. Oops, I'm in the wrong, excuse me. That's another song. Pardon. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul. But I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here, otherwise why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the people here are covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion, absorbed in material life. They think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they'll be able to understand it. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible, because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? Oh Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have become under the control of the illusory energy by your will. And therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives them with submissive oral reception, he will be able to understand your message. They will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I'm powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure, as you like. Oh, spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Oh Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. And the final verse. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedanta, and And now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. Others had gone before him, great leaders of Bhaktisiddhanta's mission, unsuccessful. It's not that it was an uncommon thing for Bhaktisiddhanta to give similar instruction. It was a known instruction for his followers, but one amongst them took it up in this mood that we hear, depending completely upon Krishna's empowerment to make this possible. And he considered himself not only the well-wisher of his disciples, but the well-wisher of all of the persons who are potential hearers of this message. We can think of him many ways, but an acharya of empathy. Here's a nice description. Srila Prabhupada is our acharya, who epitomizes empathy. An unlimited ocean of compassion. He was our eternal guide, well-wisher, and spiritual master. He descended to this world to manifest the compassion of the Supreme Lord by delivering the souls of this fallen age to the spiritual realm. This is a photograph of Srila Prabhupada in Tompkins Square Park, beneath the elm tree, the famous place where the chanting began publicly. And what was the intention? It was carrying a mission, that was part of the intention, but Prabhupada wanted that people should be happy. And the opposite of happy is the material condition where there's sorrow and misery. And the root, this is our Vaishnava and Vedic teaching in general, the root cause of suffering is avidya, or ignorance. So they needed knowledge, and how are they going to receive knowledge if they have the modes of ignorance and passion and the receivers aren't out? How are they going to receive it? Prabhupada said, when I think of how everyone in the world is suffering, it makes me cry. I actually cry. But he didn't just cry, he did something. He gave the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam and the Holy Name and Bhagavad Gita to the world. Prabhupada writes in Nectar Devotion, a person who is unable to bear another's distress is called compassionate. It's one of the 26 qualities of a devotee. And he often used this phrase, para dukkha dukhi, in reference to the nature of a Vaishnava's compassion. That is, a Vaishnava has no personal troubles, but he is very unhappy to see others in trouble. I was curious. It's good to be curious. I wanted to know, what's the source of this statement, para dukkha dukhi? So I researched a bit, and I found out. It comes from a writing of Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, since there's experienced devotees here, I don't have to inform you who that is. One of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, not known for writing volumes of books, but he did write some. And in one of his writings, he, like Srila Prabhupada, like any elevated Vaishnava, was speaking of himself in very humble terms. And when you think of Raghunath Das, he's like renunciation personified. But he wrote in one book, that, or set of prayers, that I was wallowing in a pool of sense enjoyment. That's not Raghunath Das, but he's likening himself in that way. And I had no taste for bhakti. But Sanatana Goswami was very kind upon me. He forced me to accept bhakti, and now I cannot live without it. It is my life substance. And this is because Sanatana Goswami was taking compassion upon me, Paradukha Dukhi. He refers to Sanatana Goswami in those terms. And so Prabhupada accepted that language, Paradukha Dukhi, as anyone. We're supposed to become Vaishnavas. We're being trained to have that bhakti become awakened in us and feel just like it's described here. Personally, like same as Prahlad says, for myself, I have no need. I just remember you and everything's nice. But there is one thing, and that's people are suffering. And this brings me great distress. This is the nature of Paradukha Dukhi, and it's the nature of our founder Acharya. He was in Vrindavan. We want to go to Vrindavan. He was in Vrindavan. Not only he was in Vrindavan, he was right at the lotus feet of Radha Damodar. In the courtyard, if any of you have been there, like, as close as we are practically to the deities, his place of residence was almost that where he spent the night and did his translation in Vrindavan, at the feet of Radha Damodar. Over there is the samadhi of and Bhajan Kutir Rupa Goswami, and over there is the samadhi of Jiva Goswami, and over there is Radha Damodar, and he came to America? Huh. Why? He was there in fully Krishna conscious state, and he left all of that to come to this place of ignorance and passion. Why? He was pained to see the suffering of others, and he wanted to see their happiness. And in seeing people become happiness, it's not he can do it, it's Krishna's behind that position of happiness, or any circumstance of life. Here's a nice little statement, little history by Guru Das. The next day, two men were visiting Prabhupada, and they asked, "Why did you not cover the windows? Weren't you afraid of being bombed?" This was the time there was a conflict in Calcutta, and bombs were being dropped. Prabhupada left the window open. Prabhupada said, "It is not under our control. If Krishna wants to kill, who can save? And if Krishna wants to save, who can kill? If I see the bomb coming overhead," Prabhupada looked wide-eyed and thrust his arms toward the sky, "then I will see the bomb as Krishna." He continued to look up, his arms spread wide. "I will see the bomb as Krishna." Now this wasn't Prabhupada seeing a bomb as Krishna. This is Prabhupada in Kirtan with the devotees and raising his arms, saying Krishna's mercy. But if it's a bomb instead of this other, Krishna's behind everything for the qualified devotee. Now a qualified devotee of the caliber of Srila Prabhupada is an exceptional personality, but as the exceptional personalities teach us by example, as well as by their words, their achar and their prachar, their behavior and their speech. This is very nice, well-known verse spoken by Kapila Dev to Devahuti on the process of bhakti, describing the symptoms of a sadhu. Those of you that know the verse, you can say it with me. Titikshava karunika saurada sarvadehinam ajatra shaktamat shanta sadava symptoms of a sadhu. Something happened. The symptoms of a sadhu are: he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Bhushana means ornament. The ornaments of a sadhu are his qualities. The core is his being attached to Krishna. One who is attached to Krishna has ornaments, or qualities by which that saintliness is known. So, such a person, the word sauhridam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam, he is not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society as well. The devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone. Cats, dogs, trees, etc. He treats all living entities in such a way that they can ultimately get salvation from this material entanglement. The sadhu engages in the highest philanthropic activities for the benediction of all living entities. He makes reference on another occasion to his father's elder brother, his uncle. His uncle was running a cloth shop. Before closing the shop, my uncle would put out a basin filled with rice. Of course, as in any village, there were rats. But the rats would take the rice and not cut even a single cloth. Cloth is very costly. Even if one cloth had been cut by a rat, then it would have been a great loss. So, with a few pennies worth of rice, he saved many dollars worth of cloth. This Krishna culture is practical. They are also part and parcel of God. Give them food and not create any disturbance. Give them food. Everyone has an obligation to feed whoever is hungry, even if it is a tiger. Once a certain spiritual master was living in the jungle. That his disciples knew the tigers will never come and disturb us because our teacher keeps some milk a little distance from the ashram, and the tiger comes. The tigers come, drink, and go away. Well, that sounds like utilitarian or pragmatic, but it's also the nature of a sadhu, is they're thinking of the welfare and the needs of others aside from their own protection. And beyond feeding tigers and rats and so forth, here's this very nice story I like very much. Prabhupada pointed to his coffee table and said, "Do you see this ant?" I looked carefully. I knew that Srila Prabhupada was the external representative of the Super Soul. And if he said there was an ant, then there was an ant, but there was no ant. I didn't want to say no. It appears stupid to not see the spiritual or whatever ant it was that was there. I didn't want to say yes and be proven to be a liar because I couldn't see the ant. Srila Prabhupada looked at me intensely as though the ant issue was now solved. He wanted to get on to real business. He said, "My job is to understand what is my duty to this ant." Not only was there an ant that I couldn't see, but now I had a duty to it. Prabhupada looked at me almost beseechingly. Somehow I have to help this ant. Maybe I can chant Hare Krishna to it, or feed it a little prasadam. If we can help one ant become Krishna conscious, then our whole movement is a glorious success. Nice Prabhupada story. He was teaching at every moment. Whether there was an ant or not an ant is not even the point. He was teaching his disciple or disciples at every moment the same quality that he had, this importance of giving, the means of awakening the dormant Krishna consciousness that's within every living being. And as that Krishna consciousness awakens and darkness of ignorance is dissipated, then one can then become happy. He wanted everyone to become happy. Just a little sharing. Somebody got me a gift. I get many gifts that I can't use. I end up giving them away because I can't use them. But somebody gave me a gift that came from Vrindavan. It was a little made in India device. I say made in India because you could tell just from looking at it. It was kind of, it had one of those, it wasn't a recorder, it was just a player that had an antenna. You know, move the thing, and so you can listen to class remotely from your home, wherever you are, from the Vrindavan temple, if you don't go to the morning program because it's too crowded or whatever. But it has loaded up on it all of Prabhupada's recorded material, so I've been listening and listening and listening, and it just goes on from one to the next to the next. It's fantastic. If you want to get a gift for somebody that will really be a nice gift, get one of those. They may be available elsewhere, I don't know. I'm sure they're available elsewhere, but that's where I got one. So, I've been listening and listening, and I'm just sharing. An emerging theme. Sometimes Prabhupada was heavy, sometimes he was soft, sometimes he was quoting scripture, sometimes he was telling stories. It was different moods, but there was always one thing. He wanted people to be happy. Even when he was getting really heavy, he just wanted people who were attached to not be so attached, so they could be happy. It was very clear. He said it explicitly. That was his heart. And the way that he did what he did was with such, not only finesse, but a profound sense of personalism. So what follows is one of so many Prabhupada stories. This one is going to be, it's just someone narrating. It's not Jamuna, Mother Jamuna, but you'll recognize there's a song in the background. It's Mother Jamuna singing, whom she loved singing. And so she's telling a story about Prabhupada's compassion and his personal dealings with her. So I hope the sound works.
I was stricken down with a severe case of jaundice. So somehow, Srila Prabhupada noticed that I was missing. And I was later told he had inquired many times where I was. One day, I became aware of the door being opened and turned to see Prabhupada's lotus feet walking into that closet room. I offered my obeisances as best as I could, and by then, he's leaning down, all the while chanting the Maha Mantra. Then he placed his hand on my head and inquired, "Yamuna, how are you doing?" Firstly, I said, "I'm always thinking of you, Srila Prabhupada." Then I told him my symptoms, and he said, "I think this is jaundice. Now I will take charge of your recovery. You will never get well in these conditions on the floor." Srila Prabhupada had a hospital bed brought in for me and moved me into a room right next to his, with floor-to-ceiling windows, neem trees outside, and a fan. And I remember being propped up in this bed, and he came in every day to check on my progress. He also called in an Ayurvedic doctor and gave me a diet for jaundice. He said I had to take something called beta Srila Prabhupada said, this is your medicine, and you have to eat it every day, and you also have to drink sugarcane juice. So I remember the first time I took a bite of beta, it tasted like the most bitter, horrible thing because of the jaundice. Srila Prabhupada would personally stand and watch me eat the beta, feeling miserable because of the taste. And he would actually smile and chuckle about that. I was feeling great bliss and happiness by personal care and unfathomable kindness of Srila Prabhupada. He was so engaged, so busy preaching to tens of thousands of people and taking care of our entire society. Yet he personally took charge of my recovery. To this day, I become emotional just remembering this. For me, it only increased my dedication to see that this small, insignificant soul, Yamuna, was so cared for and nurtured by Srila Prabhupada.
A phrase that I was also curious about, having heard Prabhupada use it from time to time, Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu. And it turns out it's kind of a combination of Prabhupada taking phrases and creating his own phrase. It's not exactly a combination of words that come from a Vedic text, but the concept is. And it means everyone should be happy. This was a phrase that he uses when speaking about his mission. And we're honoring his arrival at the Boston Harbor 1 week from today. And as a result of his mission, Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, here we are. At least having the means to become happy. Sukha is possible because it's of the soul. Ananda is of the soul, when to speak of Sukha. But the means to awaken that happiness comes from the deliverer of that happiness, or deliverer of the means for awakening that happiness. In his Bhagavatam effort, one of his efforts to give us happiness was the gift of Srimad Bhagavatam. Here's a statement that Prabhupada makes. This is in the section of Dhruva Maharaj, chapter 12, Canto 4. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. So Srila Prabhupada, his reference is Dhruva, but Srila Prabhupada was one such person. Sometimes devotees are personally attacked with violence, but still they are tolerant because their mission is to deliver the fallen souls. One of the qualifications of a sadhu is he is very tolerant and merciful to all fallen souls. He is merciful because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. This is continuing with that verse by Lord Kapila Dev. The second class devotee is he who is merciful and compassionate to the fallen soul. As long as one is not compassionate to people in general, in his devotional service to the Lord, he is the third class devotee. The first class devotee gives assurance to every living being that there is no need to fear this material existence. Let us live in Krishna consciousness and conquer the nescience of material existence. again, Kapila Dev's teachings. This is in New Vrindavan, Prabhupada sitting in a contemplative mood, thinking of Krishna and Krishna's compassion and how to make it accessible to one and all, so that his unhappiness of seeing others' unhappiness could be mitigated. A Vaishnava is so liberal that he is prepared to risk everything to rescue the conditioned souls from material existence. As such, if we concentrate our loving propensities upon Krishna only, then immediately universal love, unity, and tranquility will be automatically realized. From Krishna book preface. A Vaishnava is always
a well-wisher. The Vaishnava must be.
A Vaishnava is always a well-wisher to everyone. Bhagavatam purport. A Vaishnava must be equal to everyone regardless of one's position, as the moon never refuses to distribute its pleasing rays even to the home of a Chandala. A Vaishnava never refuses to act for everyone's welfare. This is Prahlad Maharaj speaking about the position of a Vaishnava. And he lived that position, and Prabhupada, following such an example, set such an example. And this is the position of our ISKCON founder Acharya. So a little sharing on this topic and honor. Of course, next week, 1 week from today, you can cover the unlimited ocean of topics about our founder Acharya and his glories and the significance of his coming. But just by his placing his feet on earth, what to speak of placing his feet here in the United States, and if I'm not mistaken, Prabhupada came right here to this building, placed his feet on the very floor where you are all seated, and saw the deities that are before you, and he sanctified, along with, of course, the deity form of the Lord. But the city is blessed by the presence of Prabhupada and, of course, his wonderful teachings. So one appeal, please read Prabhupada's books. I'll say it 3 times. Please, daily, read Prabhupada's books. There's, in some of our centers in the world, the Purnima that just passed, Bhadra Purnima, the same month that Krishna and Radha appeared, that Purnima just passed on Friday. This is Sunday. But that Bhadra Purnima marked a day when many Srimad Bhagavatam sets were distributed around the world. And now is the task, I'm challenging those that distributed so many sets of books, to have people read them. Now, how many persons here have already Srimad Bhagavatam in your home? Those of you that have Srimad Bhagavatam in your home, I'll appeal for the 3rd time. Please, read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. I just this morning, I got a letter from a devotee that is about to become a mother. She's pregnant, and so she was advised, read Srimad Bhagavatam. So she's in this Bhagavatam reading circle with other pregnant mothers. And she expressed, I never really had a taste for the Bhagavatam before, I kind of liked it, not a taste. But I've been reading 4 chapters of the Bhagavatam a day in association with these other mothers, and I feel so different. It's not a unique kind of expression, but it happened just this morning, so I'm sharing it with you. Once you start the habit of regular reading, you'll wonder, how did I live my life without regular reading? Like, when you're without, how do people live their life without chanting? They suffer, that's how they live their life, and so they become numb to the suffering so they can live their life. But when you're accustomed to chanting, same when you're accustomed to reading, the world outside of you may not change, but how you experience the world outside of you changes. It's amazing. It's like, it's mystical. So please regularly take that gift that our founder Acharya wanted to give, the gift of happiness, in the form, such an easily accessible form, this wonderful Bhaktivedanta purports. Receive it, like, through oral reception, it's nice medicine. Bhavosada Shrotrama Viramat, and it brings happiness inside. Viramat. It's medicine through the ears, and it makes the heart happy. Please regularly take that, take the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and regularly read and be happy. So we say, chant and be happy. I'm saying, chant and read and be happy. Be happy. Please be happy. And that's the means given by our founder Acharya and the previous disciplic succession, those that sent him here. Take the gift that he came to give so generously. Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Or So, who's going to do what?
Any questions?
We understand that we should be equiposed and equal for all living entities, but like we are not that highly conscious. So how we, just like if there is a poisonous animal or kind of insects in our home, so how we can make ourselves safe as well as make that we don't hurt them.
Which entities you're speaking about?
Like snakes.
Snakes? Do you have snakes around your home?
Yeah.
Really?
Like this week, I've 2 snakes broke in my house. So
A snake broke into your house.
yeah.
You have interesting burglars in your neighborhood.
So
Big one?
It was 2.5. Both were 2.5 feet.
2.5 feet.
Like we were
Was
scared.
he cute?
Huh?
Was he cute? He smelled good?
Like I was scared, but I called some of the neighbors who threw them off. But at the same time, I was not happy that I was feeling in my heart that
Well, you find a nice habitat for the snake that's not in your home, and help the snake find a habitat that's suited for the snake besides your home. Go.
not clear, Maharaj.
Huh?
Can you please explain?
Do you follow what I'm saying? Or no? There's other places besides home for snakes to live that may be more natural for them to live beside your home, like in the forest or out there somewhere. So, invite them to take residence where it's more natural for them than in your home. You have to feed them and make them a pet or something. You just find something that's suitable for them. Now, does that answer your question? How do you deal with it? Compassionate has its natural environment. And your home is not its natural environment.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah, Maharaj. I got it.
they'll find their food and they'll find their whatever they need. So they're, something that's going to meet their needs. Okay. We're good.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. So we're going to have 10 minutes of kirtan. And we request our Sunday feast sponsor today, Shrikant Vaidyanathan and family to please come forward and offer the arati. So, as you know, yesterday, day before yesterday, actually it was yesterday, Bhadra Purnima. Bhadra Purnima is the appearance day of Srimad Bhagavatam. And all the temples around the world, they were giving out Srimad Bhagavatam sets. The whole set of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who here does not have a set of Srimad Bhagavatam in your house? Who would like to have a set of Srimad Bhagavatam in your house? Then you should see Shota Shuru Prabhu. This morning we are a little behind. So this morning we had 10 people buy the sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have 5 more left in the office. Please go and see him. If you just give Srimad Bhagavatam in your house, that's Krishna personified. And so many things, so many beautiful spiritual benefits will come upon you and your whole family just like having Srimad Bhagavatam in your house. Also, another quick announcement is that the Sunday school registration is continuing on. So please do not forget, if you have a child and you want them to have a spiritual, moral and ethical foundation, then it will be nice if you put them in the school. There is no charge except for a small donation to buy their books and pencils. So please go and register with Shota Shuru Prabhu and he will be able to guide you further. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So please come and have the last darshan and prasadam will be served outside.